Did Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau just lie to President Trump right to his face about providing 10,000 troops to the northern border in order to secure that border, stop the flow of illegal immigrants and fentanyl into the United States? So did Trudeau lie to President Trump? Well, let's find out. David Krayden is an independent journalist. He also writes at the Post Millennial. He's been following this story, and it kind of went quiet there for a few days. Trudeau kind of making this agreement, put tariffs off for 30 days or so, and everyone seemed to be happy about this. But what's really going on behind the scenes, David?
Well, everybody was relatively happy because as much as this was about Donald Trump's wishes for the Canadian-U.S. border, a lot of Canadians said, well, thank God something seems to be happening. It looks like Trudeau's finally going to do something because he's being pressured to do so by Donald Trump. But good on him. At least we're going to get some changes at the border. Now, Trudeau promised specifically that he would send 10,000, quote, frontline personnel to the Canada-U.S. border. He promised to fight organized crime in conjunction with the Americans. He promised to label the cartels, the criminal cartels that engage in drug and human smuggling, as terrorist organizations. These are all promises that he made to avert a tariff that was supposed to start on February 1st, and in the hopes that this tariff would be taken away completely after 30 days of, shall we say, responsible behavior from Justin Trudeau in Canada. And that's what Trudeau needed to do, was to demonstrate that he was doing this. Almost immediately, there was crosstalk that didn't really make any sense. There's a disconnection because Trudeau is saying, well, we had this in mind all along with our $1.3 billion border security plan. And I'm saying, like hell you did, because there's no provision in that plan for 10,000 frontline personnel. That was never even considered. And as I've said time and time again, this is a 6-year plan where most of the money is being spent in the 5th and 6th years, not now, not today, when Donald Trump wants the money spent. So there was something very suspicious about this immediately. And when I saw frontline personnel, I said, well, what are frontline personnel? Are you talking about the RCMP? Are you talking about the Canadian Armed Forces? Are you talking about border security agents? Are you talking about first responders? God only knows, because Trudeau got away with defining it as frontline personnel instead of just saying military personnel, soldiers, troops, police, whatever. He got away with this weasel word, what means absolutely nothing. And what is so frustrating, Clayton, is that nobody's asking the question right now to Justin Trudeau as to, what do you mean by frontline personnel? Where are these 10,000 people going to come from? Because yesterday, the Minister of National Defence in Canada stated emphatically that these 10,000 people would not be military. So where are they going to come from? The RCMP? No, we don't have 10,000 RCMP officers to send to the border. We don't have 10,000 extra Canadian border security agents to send to the border. So what is he talking about? Is he referring to a number that's already out there and he's going to supplement it with more people? This is deliberate obfuscation, typical of this prime minister. I can see trouble ahead because Donald Trump is not going to fall for this one. He didn't fall for the border security plan over 6 years. He demanded something now. He demanded action right now. Justin Trudeau doesn't seem to be bringing that up. And this is the problem when the House of Commons is suspended, when Parliament is suspended. We don't have daily question period. We don't have an opportunity for the opposition to stand up and say, what do you mean by 10,000 people, 10,000 frontline personnel? Can you define that? Where are they coming from? We need answers today. And of course, Trudeau is just continuing to evade the questions, which unfortunately aren't even being asked.
I mean, when you look at the United States, in America right now, we have about 20,000 ICE employees in the U.S. Now, only about 7,000 of them are frontline agents, 7,100 according to the latest numbers. So about 7,100 agents that go out in the field and make arrests. The rest are a lot of support staff, employees to sort of facilitate that. Then you have about 1,000 or so special agents. So 20,000 in the United States. Trudeau knowingly, I mean, it looks like he lied on purpose to Trump. And now the chickens are going to come home to roost because Trump has said, if we're going to give you 30 days to pull this off, otherwise, I think that the tariffs will become even more severe if you don't manage to pull this off in 30 days. So what do you think is going to happen in the next 20 or so days? That's really all he has left.
Well, the only thing I can be optimistic about is that the House resumes sitting within the next couple of weeks, because there is a constitutional challenge to Trudeau's prorogation or the suspension of Parliament. That comes up at the Canadian Supreme Court on February 14th, which, not only Valentine's Day, but it's the third anniversary of Trudeau invoking the Emergencies Act. So it's quite a historic day now in Canada. So the Supreme Court might order the House of Commons back in the session and say the prorogation was illegal. It was unconstitutional. Trudeau had no reason to do that. If that happens, we're going to have an early election, because all of the signs now are that all of the opposition parties want Trudeau out. They want the Liberals out because this is a lame duck government that just can't negotiate on behalf of Canada. And I don't think this latest incident is going to help Trudeau at all, or the Liberal government, suggesting we're going to be bolstering border security and then not really doing that. So that's something to be optimistic about. At the very worst, we're going to have a spring election. I think even the new Democratic Party has decided it can no longer prop up this government anymore. So I think a new election might be the only saving grace. Alberta Premier Danielle Smith was interviewed yesterday, and she warned Trudeau, don't go back on your word here. Follow through with what you're doing, because she worked extremely hard to get Donald Trump's attention. She managed to get the tariff on energy reduced from 25 to 10%. She managed to really capture the attention of a lot of Americans who said, here's a responsible political leader in Canada who wants to do the right thing. And I think that is another reason to be optimistic. But worst case scenario, March 1st comes around and we're struck with 25%, possibly double tariff. And I've looked at the products that are going to be hit not only by the U.S. tariff, but by the counter retaliatory tariffs by Canada. This could increase the price of grocery products by 30 to 50% overnight. Things are bad enough in this country where people are going to food banks and soup kitchens just to survive. But now it's going to push the price of groceries out of reach. This could be a Great Depression with a capital G and a capital D. This is catastrophic for this country. And it's not going to be good for the U.S. either. I think there's a general consensus now that this is not going to be a party for anybody. And especially as oil and gas prices go in the United States, this is going to push up the price of gas easily by $1 or $2 a gallon overnight. Even if it goes through as a 10% tariff. I've never been a fan of trade wars. I've always been a free trader. I don't like protectionism. I think it's bad for everybody. That's one of the major causes of the Great Depression in the 1930s was protectionism. I thought we learned that lesson. We need to move beyond this. Canada and the U.S. are the best of friends. This is the dumbest trade war in history. We have fought together in every war except Vietnam, and we have always been allies, the strongest allies. Our military are joined at the hip. Economically, we're very, very close. We're the U.S.'s biggest trading partner. It's time to get beyond this, but we need an honest prime minister who's not going to lie about what he has promised to do. And I am utterly convinced Justin Trudeau is lying, as he ought to do in so many occasions.
Well, I think the bombshell here, David, I'll let you out of here on this, is that there's been no movement at all with these 10,000 forces. Well, where are they? What's going on here? You would think by now that there would be massive mobilization underway to make this happen. It doesn't seem to be happening at all.
Well, it's not. And that's why when I read this yesterday, this announcement from the Minister of National Defense, I was utterly shocked. Because if they're not coming from the Department of Defense, if they're not coming from the Canadian Armed Forces, where are they coming from? And he's talking about drones. We already made a huge mistake with the drones. The RCMP bought a bunch of Chinese drones that we can't even use. So why is Bill Blair, the Minister of Defense, talking about drones and not human beings? We need boots on the ground. That's an understanding. We know that that is what Donald Trump is expecting. To tell you the truth, Clayton, that's what most Canadians are expecting. We were anticipating some absolutely bold moves here on border security, not because Trudeau really wants to do it, but because he had to do it. Now, if he thinks he can get away with this, I think he's even a more superficial individual than I have previously imagined.
Imagine that. David Kraydon joining us from Canada today, always keeping them honest up there. Fascinating story, and I think this has gone quiet in the wake of everything that's going on in the Middle East right now and Trump's comments over Gaza and all of that, but we still have this massive tariff impending doom facing Canada right now and the United States. So thank you for this. David, great to see you as always.
Thank you, Clayton. We'll see you again soon.
Thanks, David. Appreciate it. All right. Trudeau lying to the United States. What a shock. What a shock.
Don't drink the Kool-Aid, folks. Don't listen to Justin Trudeau. We need this kind of attitude in Canada right now because let me tell you, Justin Trudeau will fight tooth and nail to stay as leader of the Liberal Party and as Prime Minister of Canada, and he will use every trick in the Liberal handbook to do that. So we have to be vigilant, and we have to have perseverance to fight this battle to the end. As I've been saying since this station went on the air, we need to resolve to resist. And we need to fight for our free speech and our democratic rights to say what we believe, to speak, as John Diefenbaker said. And don't forget that t-shirt that's available out there in the store. I speak as a free Canadian, free to speak, free to believe in what I choose. And Justin Trudeau is not going to interfere with that. Thanks for being a part of the KRAYDEN'S Right resistance, and we'll see you again soon. So we are in a very precarious position in this country. We need a political change, but we also need to resolve to resist.